Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Veterinary Life Coach Podcast. I'm so glad you're here with me today listening. Today, we're going to talk about something that sounds very simple, but for many of us in veterinary medicine, it is incredibly or feels incredibly hard. And that is respecting yourself by asking for what you want. As I told you a little bit on the intro to the last podcast, I'm working to move into a new home and doing all the things that entails buying things, scheduling deliveries, cleaning, working on installations, hiring different people, everything that comes with moving into a new home. And I had the idea for this podcast as I was talking with someone that was contracted to do work on my new house. I needed some things fixed, and I was calling him to give him my list. He pushed back about my timeline because he said he was busy with other people and other work. And I was disappointed in his timeline and the offer that he presented to me. And I don't want to go into a bunch of detail about it because I just don't want to badmouth any of the people that are working with me. But I thought that this list would take a really short amount of time. It would be very quickly done to my specifications. And he offered, or I guess demanded, that we stretch the timeline over weeks to months. And so I was upset. I wanted to throw a fit and make some demands that he get these things done quickly. But I held back a little bit because I felt he had a good excuse. I didn't want to, push him too hard because I knew he was busy. And so then I asked myself, how do I get what I want and still be respectful to his needs? And why is it that I feel like I need to hold back on these requests? Why am I putting other people's agenda in front of my own? So I came up with this podcast idea after going through this mental dilemma myself, because I needed a way to approach this situation and get what I wanted and increase the respect that I had for myself by doing that. And as veterinarians, as technicians, hospital managers, anyone else on a veterinary team, we're trained to be servants. We serve our patients, we serve our clients, we want to serve our teams, and even our families take precedence over our own needs. And somewhere we lose the ability to serve ourselves. We stop asking for what we want. We stop pushing for our needs. And we start believing that if we stay quiet, it's easier, it's safer, it's kinder, and even feels more professional. And so that's one of the reasons that we don't ask. But the real truth is that not asking for what we want is a subtle and powerful way that we show disrespect to ourselves. So, why is it that many of us don't ask for what we need? Many times it's fear of conflict. We have a fear of being seen as difficult or people calling us a bitch if you're a woman, because we do sometimes have that fear. We have a fear of rejection, that someone might not like us. We don't want to look demanding or weak or needy. And sometimes we even fear getting what we want because things may change and we're uncertain on how that will affect us. So sometimes just the thought of change keeps us from pushing for what we want. And then maybe there's this belief under all of that our needs don't matter as much as the next guys or the other people or the clients. Their needs are more important than ours. So, is that something that you can relate to? Because it sounds a lot like what goes through my mind when these situations come up. We don't understand that there is a cost of not speaking up. Because when we don't ask for what we want, these few things can start to happen. We feel overlooked. We begin to feel resentful. We can think of ourselves as undervalued. And even feeling stuck is part of this cascade of events. And over time, we can become disconnected with veterinary medicine, with our families, with our desires and dreams and wants. And then from ourselves, we disconnect from ourselves. But others can't help us meet our needs if they don't know what we want, if they don't know our needs exist. Our boss doesn't know what we want. Your team, if you have a veterinary team that you lead, they don't know what you want. Your family may not know. Your clients, they're not mind readers. They can't get inside your head and decide what it is that you want and you need. Unless we speak up, we have to speak up. So the silence that we seem to practice feels protective, but it doesn't protect us. It just causes us to feel and be unseen and not get the things that we desire. So, asking for that self respect isn't about being confident. It's not about our perfectionism. It's about believing in ourselves and believing that our voice matters, that we deserve to be heard, that our desires are just as important as everyone else's. And so learning to respect ourselves means acknowledging our needs, honoring the things that we desire, communicating those desires and those needs clearly, and sometimes even directly, even if it feels somewhat uncomfortable, especially when it feels uncomfortable. That's the hardest time, right? So in my case with the contractor, instead of not saying anything or being silent or just making do until he had time for me, I told him that his timeline wasn't acceptable and I needed him to do something sooner. And I said it in a kind way, but a firm way. I pushed a little bit, maybe. So maybe he did think I was kind of mean or bitchy or whatever. But once I pushed a little bit, he stopped pushing back and he told me that he would move me up on his list, get me further up on the schedule until I got what I wanted and what I needed. So, if we have to ask for what we want, or if we want to ask to show ourselves self respect, this is what it could sound like for you and what it did sound like for me with this contractor. Um, I need this done soon. Sometimes that's a simple statement. This is what I need. This is what I expect. If you're at work, it could be a request to the person that does your schedule. It could be something like, I'd like to adjust my work schedule so I can support my family and myself and my well being better. It could be something if you're asking for more out of your hospital, you could say something like, I'm interested in becoming a leader in this hospital. I'm interested in more responsibility. You could say, I need mentorship. I need help with my workload. I need less clients. Um, it could be asking for more feedback. So you could say something like, I'd love more feedback so I can continue to grow. And one thing that's difficult for us to say is, I'm not comfortable with this situation, whatever it is. And if you're not comfortable and you need something different, you have to say that. I'd like to talk to somebody about this situation. And you can even ask for a break. If work is getting difficult and you're struggling, You could just say, I need a break. And it's not unreasonable to ask for these things. You might need these things to balance that work and life pendulum that keeps swinging back and forth, right? So if you're feeling fearful or reluctant to ask for what you want, try some reframing. Could you reframe your thoughts in order to ask for what you want? And I think this is a really powerful exercise. It always helps to think about what you're thinking and then maybe ask yourself, could I think something different to feel different about this? So instead of thinking, what if they say no? And that's kind of a fearful thought. Maybe try asking yourself, what happens if I never ask? Maybe I'll never get what I want. Because when you don't ask, you always get the answer no, right? You're not getting what you want if you don't ask. So you need to reinforce the belief that you're important and not reinforce the thought that says, I don't matter. My needs don't matter. I'm not important enough. I'm low man on the totem pole. Whatever your brain is telling you, that Chihuahua brain, it's more important that you ask yourself, if I don't ask, or say to yourself, if I don't ask, I'll never get this. So if you're having trouble asking for something that feels hard, here's how you can take control of that situation. State whatever situation that you're in, state it clearly. So in my example with the contractor, I'm struggling because I can't use my shower. It's got grout problems. This is part of my problem. And I can't use my shower. And I should be able to use my shower in my house. So that's my situation. And so what I need, now you want to express your needs, what I need is someone to look at this sooner rather than later because I don't want water damage in my house. So state your situation and then tell the person what you want or need. Keep it very neutral, keep it very respectful, not angry, pushy. Um, don't let it escalate because the calmer you can stay, the more likely you are to get your way in these situations. You don't want to start a fight because it makes it easy for people to dismiss you. You just want to be factual but strong. So here's another example. If I'm feeling too stretched by my current work schedule and I want to adjust my hours, I might have to say that. I'm feeling a little stretched. I need a lighter schedule. I would just like to explore this with you. Is it possible that I might be able to adjust my hours? You don't have to over explain. You don't have to apologize. You just have to be clear about the request. And if this situation or this requesting is feeling really difficult for you, start with something small. It doesn't have to be this big life overhaul. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow. Just ask for something that feels more manageable to you. Maybe it's something simple like, I would like to switch my surgery day, or I would like to get off an hour early 1 day a week. It could be something entirely small, or it could just be some self respect, something that's making you feel a little bit put upon that you'd like to change. So ask for something manageable, practice using this requesting voice in lower risk situations. And each time you ask for what you want and you either get it or maybe you don't get it, but you were brave enough to ask for it, you're building confidence. You're building evidence that you can advocate for yourself and that you can respect yourself and ask for what you want. You'll become more confident and competent when in these situations. It's not about controlling the outcome. It's not about demanding. It's just about showing up for yourself and knowing what you want and knowing what you need and asking for it openly and honestly. And give yourself that permission to be heard, to be valued, and start with what you want authentically. Because when you respect yourself enough to ask for what you want, you will change the way other people see you. You will change the respect that the clients give you. You will change your schedule sometimes. You'll get what you want, which is really funny, right? When you ask for what you want, you get what you want. And so you will change the relationship with yourself. I have a couple of quotes that I found for you on this subject. And the first one is from Brene Brown. And she says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. So, that boundary setting, that asking for what you want, will risk disappointing others, but it's about loving yourself, taking care of yourself. Thank you, Brene Brown. She says a lot of interesting things, right? The next quote is from Stephen Covey, and he said, we teach people how to treat us by what we allow, what we stop, and what we reinforce. And isn't that true? Teaching others what we need, what we want, what we will accept is very important to our self respect, to our self care, to our self love. Okay, everyone. I hope that this was a fun podcast for you. I love doing podcasts by myself, even though I have so many interviews and I don't want to give those up because they're fun as well. But I hope you enjoyed this. And if this episode resonated with you or you got any good tips from it, I encourage you to try once this week. Ask for one thing that you've been afraid to ask for, one thing that you've been holding back from asking for. And this week, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and have a beautiful week. Bye.